Are you an older woman who's been wondering if that younger man in your life is genuinely interested in you, or if you're just another conquest on his list? Have you found yourself questioning his motives, his intentions, and whether he's truly serious about building something meaningful with you? If you've clicked on this video, chances are you've experienced some doubt, some uncertainty, or maybe even some red flags that have made you pause and wonder what's really going on in his mind. Before we dive deep into this crucial topic, I want you to do me a huge favor. If this content resonates with you, if it helps you navigate your relationships better, please hit that like button right now. It helps more women like you discover this content. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest insights on dating, relationships, and empowerment. And if you really want to support the valuable content we create here, consider showing your appreciation with a super thanks. Your support means the world to us and allows us to keep creating content that makes a real difference in women's lives. Now, let's get into something that affects thousands of mature women around the world. The reality is that age gap relationships have become increasingly common in our modern dating landscape. Whether you're a woman in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or beyond, you might find yourself attracted to or being pursued by younger men. While many of these relationships can be genuine, loving, and fulfilling, there's unfortunately a darker side that we need to address. Some younger men specifically target older women not out of genuine romantic interest, but for reasons that are far less honorable. They might be looking for financial support, a temporary ego boost, an easy conquest, or simply someone to take care of them while they figure out their own lives. These men have learned to identify and exploit the vulnerabilities that many mature women face, from loneliness after divorce or loss to insecurities about aging, to the simple human desire for companionship and love. Today, we're going to expose the 7 most significant red flags that indicate a man is not serious about you as an older woman. These aren't just minor annoyances or personality differences. These are serious warning signs that suggest he sees you as something other than an equal partner, deserving of respect, love, and genuine commitment. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools to identify these red flags early, protect yourself from manipulation and heartbreak, and make informed decisions about your romantic future. This isn't about being cynical or closing your heart to love. It's about being smart, aware, and empowered. You deserve someone who values you for who you are, not what you can provide. You deserve someone who's excited about your wisdom, your experience, your confidence, and your unique beauty that comes with maturity. So let's dive in and discover these 7 critical red flags together. Red flag number 1. He's secretive about your relationship. The first major red flag that indicates a man isn't serious about you as an older woman is when he keeps your relationship completely under wraps. This goes far beyond the normal privacy that new couples might maintain in the early stages of dating. We're talking about a deliberate, consistent pattern of secrecy that extends well beyond what would be considered reasonable or healthy. Think about this carefully. When someone is genuinely proud to be with you, when they see you as a valuable partner and an asset to their life, they naturally want to share that joy with others. They want to introduce you to their friends, his family, and his colleagues. They post pictures with you on social media. They mention you in conversations, and they include you in their social circles. This is normal, healthy behavior that indicates someone who sees a future with you. But when a man is keeping you a secret, especially when you're an older woman, it often reveals some troubling underlying attitudes and motivations. He might be embarrassed about your age difference, worried about what others will think, or concerned about how dating an older woman might impact his reputation or image. Even worse, he might be keeping you secret because you're not his only romantic interest. You could be one of several women he's seeing, or he might even be in another relationship entirely. The secrecy often manifests in subtle but telling ways. He never invites you to social gatherings with his friends. When you do go out together, it's always to places where he's unlikely to run into anyone he knows. He's vague about his social media presence and never tags you in posts or pictures. If you happen to encounter someone he knows while you're together, he introduces you as just a friend or doesn't introduce you at all. He keeps your phone calls and text conversations brief when he's around others. and he might even step away to take your calls privately. This behavior is particularly damaging to older women because it plays into existing insecurities about aging and desirability. Society already sends enough messages that older women are somehow less valuable or attractive. When the man you're dating reinforces these harmful messages by hiding your relationship, it can be devastating to your self-esteem and sense of worth. Consider Sarah's story. She was 52 when she met David, who was 38. Their chemistry was undeniable, and for the first few months she felt like she was living in a romantic fairy tale.
David was attentive, passionate, and seemed genuinely interested in her life and experiences.
But as time went on, she noticed that their relationship existed in a bubble. She never met any of his friends, despite hearing stories about them constantly. When she suggested they attend a work party together, he made excuses. When she posted a photo of them together on her social media, he asked her to take it down because he was private about his personal life. The turning point came when they ran into one of David's co-workers at a restaurant. Instead of introducing Sarah as his girlfriend, David introduced her as a friend from work, despite the fact that they had never worked together. Sarah felt humiliated and began to realize that David was ashamed of their relationship. When she confronted him about it, he got defensive and accused her of being too demanding and insecure. This secrecy often comes with elaborate justifications and excuses. He might claim he's protecting your privacy, or that he doesn't believe in public displays of affection or relationship announcements. He might say he's not ready to involve family and friends yet, even after months of dating. He could claim that his job, his family situation, or his social circle makes it complicated to go public with your relationship. While some of these concerns might seem reasonable on the surface, pay attention to the pattern and the duration. If months have passed and you're still completely separate from every other aspect of his life, that's not protection or privacy. That's concealment. And there's usually a reason for it that has nothing to do with your best interests. The psychological impact of being kept secret can be profound. It sends a message that you're not good enough to be acknowledged publicly, that there's something shameful about your relationship, or that you're just a temporary situation rather than a serious partner. For older women who might already be dealing with societal ageism and personal insecurities about dating later in life, this secrecy can reinforce negative self-beliefs and damage self-worth. Moreover, this secrecy makes it impossible to build a genuine, integrated relationship. Healthy relationships don't exist in isolation. They're supported by community, family, and friends. When you're kept separate from all of these important aspects of his life, the relationship lacks the foundation and support system it needs to grow and thrive. If you're experiencing this red flag, it's important to have an honest conversation about it sooner rather than later. Express your need for openness and integration in the relationship. Pay attention to his response. Does he become defensive, dismissive, or angry? Does he make promises to change that he never follows through on? Or does he listen to your concerns and take concrete steps to include you more openly in his life? Remember, you deserve someone who's proud to be with you, regardless of your age or the age difference between you. You deserve someone who wants to shout from the rooftops about how lucky they are to have found you. If he's not doing that, if he's keeping you hidden away like a guilty secret, then he's probably not the right person for you, and he's definitely not serious about building a real future together. Red flag number 2. He only contacts you for physical intimacy. The second major red flag that reveals a man's lack of serious intentions toward an older woman is when his communication patterns center almost exclusively around physical intimacy and sexual encounters. This is one of the most telling and harmful patterns because it reduces you to nothing more than a sexual object, completely disregarding your value as a complete person with thoughts, feelings, experiences, and desires beyond the physical realm. Let's be clear about what this looks like in practice. This man rarely initiates conversations about your day, your interests, your dreams, your challenges, or your thoughts. He doesn't ask about your work, your family, your hobbies, or your opinions on various topics. Instead, his texts and calls follow a predictable pattern. They usually come late in the evening or during times when he's likely thinking about physical intimacy. His messages are filled with sexual innuendo, explicit requests, or thinly veiled invitations to meet up for intimate encounters. When you try to engage him in deeper conversations, he either changes the subject back to something physical, gives short, dismissive responses, or simply doesn't respond at all until the next time he wants something sexual. This pattern reveals that he sees you primarily as a means to satisfy his physical desires, not as a partner worthy of emotional connection, intellectual engagement, or genuine companionship. This red flag is particularly insidious when it comes to older women because it exploits several vulnerabilities that are common in this demographic. Many mature women have gone through periods of feeling undesirable due to ageist societal messages, divorce, loss of a spouse, or simply the natural changes that come with aging. When a younger man shows sexual interest, it can feel incredibly validating and exciting. The attention feels good, the physical chemistry can be intoxicating, and it's easy to mistake sexual desire for genuine romantic interest. Unfortunately, some men deliberately target older women because they believe mature women will be easier to manipulate in this way. They assume that an older woman will be so grateful for sexual attention from a younger man that she won't demand the emotional connection, commitment, or respect that she deserves. They count on the fact that she might overlook red flags because she's afraid of losing the physical validation and attention. Consider Linda's experience. At 57, she had been divorced for 3 years and was just beginning to feel ready to date again. She met Marcus, who was 42, through an online dating app. Their initial conversations were engaging and wide-ranging, covering everything from literature to travel to their respective careers. She felt a genuine connection and was excited about the possibilities. However, once they met in person and became physically intimate, the dynamic shifted dramatically. Marcus's texts became increasingly sexual in nature. Instead of asking how her day went, he would send explicit messages about what he wanted to do to her. When she tried to engage him in conversations about current events, books they had discussed, or plans for future activities, his responses were minimal and uninterested. Their dates became predictable. He would suggest coming over to her place or meeting at his apartment. When she suggested going to a museum, trying a new restaurant, or attending a cultural event, he would agree reluctantly and spend the entire time seeming impatient to get to the physical part of their evening. It became clear that everything else was just something to endure until they could be intimate. What made this particularly hurtful was that Linda genuinely enjoyed the physical aspect of their relationship. The chemistry was real, and she found herself sexually fulfilled in ways she hadn't experienced in years. This made it difficult to acknowledge the red flag because the physical component was so satisfying. She began to convince herself that maybe this was enough, that perhaps she was asking for too much in wanting emotional connection as well. This is exactly the trap that many older women fall into. The physical validation feels so good, especially after years of feeling invisible or undesirable, that they're willing to accept breadcrumbs of attention in other areas. They start to believe that they should be grateful for whatever attention they receive, even if it's primarily sexual. The pattern often extends beyond just communication. When you do spend time together, activities are limited and always lead to the same conclusion. There's no genuine interest in creating shared experiences, building memories, or engaging in activities that don't have a sexual component. He's not interested in meeting your friends or introducing you to his. He doesn't want to go on real dates or participate in activities that couples typically enjoy together. This behavior also often includes a lack of consideration for your emotional and physical well-being beyond the sexual encounter itself. He doesn't check in on you when you're sick, stressed, or going through difficult times unless it affects his access to physical intimacy. He's not interested in providing emotional support, celebrating your achievements, or being there for you during challenging moments. The timing of his communications is also revealing. Notice when he reaches out and when he doesn't. Does he only contact you when he's likely in the mood for physical intimacy? Does he disappear for days or weeks at a time, only to resurface with sexual messages? Does he fail to respond to your non-sexual messages, but immediately reply to anything that might lead to a physical encounter? Another aspect of this red flag is how he responds to your attempts to establish boundaries or express needs beyond the physical. If you try to slow things down sexually or express a desire for more emotional connection, does he become frustrated, angry, or manipulative? Does he make you feel like you're being unreasonable or asking for too much? These responses reveal that he's not interested in your needs or boundaries. He's only interested in what you can provide for him physically. This pattern is not just disrespectful, it's emotionally damaging. It sends the message that your worth is tied entirely to your sexual availability and performance. It suggests that your thoughts, feelings, experiences, and wisdom have no value to him. For older women who might already be struggling with ageist messages from society, this treatment can be particularly devastating to self-esteem and self-worth. A man who is genuinely serious about an older woman will be interested in her as a complete person. He'll want to know about her life experiences, her perspectives, and her dreams and goals. He'll enjoy spending time with her in various contexts, not just intimate ones. He'll check in on her well-being, support her through challenges, and celebrate her successes. Physical intimacy will be just one component of a multi-dimensional relationship that includes emotional, intellectual, and social connections. If you're experiencing this red flag, it's crucial to recognize that you deserve so much more than being someone's sexual outlet. You deserve a partner who values your mind, your heart, your experiences, and your wisdom as much as your physical presence. Don't let loneliness, insecurity, or the fear of losing physical validation trap you in a situation where you're being used rather than loved and respected. Red flag number 3. He never talks about future plans that include you. The third significant red flag that indicates a man is not serious about his relationship with an older woman is his consistent avoidance of future-oriented conversations that include you as a part of his life. This isn't about pressuring someone into marriage proposals or demanding detailed life plans after a few dates. This is about recognizing a pattern of deliberate exclusion from future thinking that becomes apparent over time and reveals his true intentions about the relationship's longevity and significance. When someone is genuinely invested in a relationship and sees it as having potential for growth and permanence, they naturally begin to include their partner in their future thinking. This happens organically and at various levels of commitment. It might start with simple things like planning next weekend's activities or discussing a movie that's coming out next month that you might see together. As the relationship develops, these future references typically expand to include more significant timeframes and commitments. A man who's serious about an older woman will gradually begin to weave her into his future narratives. He'll mention the vacation he's planning and wonder if she'd like to join him. He'll talk about family events coming up and consider including her. When discussing career moves, living situations, or major life decisions, he'll factor in how these choices might affect their relationship. He'll make reference to holidays you might spend together, events you could attend as a couple, or experiences he'd like to share with you down the road. But when a man is not serious about the relationship, his future talk follows a distinctly different pattern. He consistently speaks about his future in singular terms, as if you don't exist or won't be part of his life beyond the immediate present. His plans are always individual plans. His dreams and goals never include you, even peripherally. When you try to engage in future-oriented conversations or make suggestions about things you might do together, he becomes evasive, changes the subject, or gives vague, non-committal responses. This pattern is particularly telling when it comes to relationships with older women, because it often reveals underlying assumptions and biases about age gap relationships. Some younger men enter relationships with older women with the mindset that these are inherently temporary arrangements. They might view the relationship as a fun diversion, a learning experience, or a stepping stone, but never as something that could develop into a serious long-term partnership. The exclusion from future plans often becomes more apparent as you pay closer attention to his language and behavior patterns. He talks about I and my instead of we and our. He makes decisions about his life without considering how they might impact you or the relationship. He commits to events, trips, or activities months in advance without thinking about whether you might want to participate or whether his commitments conflict with time you could spend together. Consider the story of Margaret, a 60-year-old professional who began dating James, who was 45. Initially, their relationship seemed to have great potential. James was charming, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in her life and experiences. They enjoyed each other's company and had wonderful chemistry. However, as months passed, Margaret began to notice a troubling pattern. James frequently talked about his future plans, but she was never included in any of them. He mentioned wanting to travel to Europe the following summer, but never suggested they might go together. He talked about his career goals and potential job opportunities in other cities without considering how those moves might affect their relationship. When his sister announced her wedding date a year in advance, he never mentioned the possibility of Margaret attending as his date. Most telling was his response when Margaret tried to initiate future-oriented conversations. When she mentioned a concert series that was starting in a few months and suggested they might get season tickets, he said he didn't like to plan that far ahead. When she brought up the idea of taking a weekend trip together, he said he preferred to be spontaneous. When she mentioned that her daughter was planning to visit in 3 months and suggested they might all have dinner together, he became uncomfortable and said he'd have to see what his schedule looked like. The pattern became undeniable when James started talking about buying a house. He spent weeks researching neighborhoods, looking at properties online, and discussing his criteria for the perfect home. Throughout all of these conversations, he never once asked for Margaret's input or considered whether she might want to be involved in this major life decision. When Margaret finally asked if he had thought about how his housing choice might affect their relationship, he looked genuinely surprised, as if the thought had never occurred to him. This red flag often manifests in both major and minor ways. On the minor side, he doesn't include you in holiday plans, doesn't ask for your schedule when making his own plans, and doesn't consider your preferences when making decisions that could affect both of you. On the major side, he makes significant life decisions about career, location, finances, or family, without any consideration of how these choices impact your relationship or future together. The avoidance of future planning also often includes a reluctance to define the relationship or discuss where it's heading. When you try to have conversations about what you both want from the relationship or where you see things going, he becomes uncomfortable, evasive, or dismissive. He might say things like, "Let's just see where things go," or "I don't like to put pressure on relationships with expectations," or "I prefer to live in the moment." While these responses might sound reasonable on the surface, they become problematic when they persist over extended periods and are combined with other red flag behaviors. A person can enjoy spontaneity and living in the moment while still being capable of including their partner in future thinking and planning. The key is whether he's willing to engage in future-oriented conversations when you bring them up, or whether he consistently deflects, avoids, or shuts down these discussions. This pattern is particularly damaging for older women because it reinforces the harmful stereotype that relationships with mature women are inherently temporary or less serious than relationships with younger women. It suggests that you're good enough for the present moment but not worthy of future consideration or planning. This can be incredibly hurtful and damaging to self-esteem, especially for women who might already be dealing with societal messages about their desirability and value in the dating market. The psychological impact of being excluded from future planning can be profound. It creates a sense of uncertainty and insecurity about the relationship's stability and direction. It makes it difficult to feel genuinely valued and appreciated as a partner. It can leave you feeling like you're in relationship limbo, never knowing whether you're building something meaningful or just filling time until something better comes along for him. Moreover, this pattern makes it impossible to make your own informed decisions about the relationship and your future. Healthy relationships require some level of mutual planning and consideration of shared goals and dreams. When one person is completely excluded from future thinking, they can't assess whether the relationship is meeting their needs or whether it has the potential to develop into what they're looking for. A man who is genuinely serious about an older woman will naturally begin to include her in his future thinking as the relationship develops. He'll consider her preferences when making plans. He'll discuss his goals and dreams with her input in mind, and he'll be open to conversations about where the relationship is heading. He won't be afraid to talk about the future because he sees her as a potential part of that future. If you're experiencing this red flag, pay attention to the patterns over time. Notice whether his language and behavior consistently exclude you from future consideration. Try initiating conversations about future plans and pay attention to his responses. Does he engage enthusiastically, or does he become uncomfortable and evasive? Is he willing to consider your input and preferences, or does he make it clear that his future plans are his alone? Remember that you deserve to be with someone who not only enjoys your present company, but also wants you to be part of their future. You deserve someone who's excited about the possibilities of what you could build together, who includes you in their dreams and plans, and who values your input on major life decisions. If he's not doing these things, if he's consistently keeping you separate from his future thinking, then he's probably not serious about the relationship's potential for growth and longevity. Red flag, you're a 4. He seems more interested in your resources than your personality. The fourth critical red flag that reveals a man's lack of genuine interest in an older woman is when his focus consistently shifts toward what you can provide for him, materially, financially, or practically, rather than who you are as a person. This is one of the most calculating and manipulative red flags because it involves a deliberate exploitation of the resources, stability, and generosity that many older women have worked hard to achieve throughout their lives. This red flag often develops gradually and can be difficult to recognize at first because it's frequently disguised as genuine interest or practical compatibility. However, over time, a clear pattern emerges where his enthusiasm for the relationship seems directly correlated to what you can offer him materially, while his interest in your personality, thoughts, dreams, and emotional well-being remains superficial or non-existent. The resources that these men typically target can vary widely depending on your individual circumstances. For some older women, it might be financial stability, career success, or accumulated wealth. For others, it could be a comfortable home, social connections, professional networks, or even practical things like cooking skills, household management, or emotional labor that make their lives easier and more comfortable. What makes this particularly insidious is that many older women have spent decades building these resources and capabilities. They've worked hard in their careers, managed households, raised families, and developed skills and assets that represent their life's work and achievements. When a man shows interest in these accomplishments, it can initially feel validating and appreciated. Finally, someone who recognizes and values what you've built and achieved. However, the difference between genuine appreciation and exploitative interest becomes apparent through careful observation of patterns and priorities. A man who genuinely appreciates your accomplishments will value them as part of what makes you an interesting, capable, and attractive person. A man who's exploiting your resources will focus on what those accomplishments can do for him rather than what they reveal about your character, intelligence, and capabilities. Let's explore how this typically manifests in real relationships. Take the case of Patricia, a 59-year-old successful real estate agent who owned her home outright and had built a comfortable retirement fund through years of hard work and smart financial planning. When she met Ryan, who was 37 and working in a series of temporary jobs while finding his passion, she was initially impressed by his artistic sensibilities and free-spirited approach to life. Ryan seemed fascinated by Patricia's stories about building her business and achieving financial independence. He praised her intelligence, her work ethic, and her success. This felt wonderful to Patricia, who had rarely received recognition for her professional achievements in her previous marriage. Ryan appeared to be someone who truly valued accomplished women and wasn't intimidated by her success. However, as their relationship progressed, Patricia began to notice troubling patterns. Ryan's questions about her work increasingly focused on her income, her property values, and her investment strategies rather than the satisfaction she derived from helping clients or the challenges she enjoyed in the business. He began making comments about how nice it must be to have financial security and how stressful it was to worry about money all the time. The shift became more apparent when Ryan began having financial difficulties. Instead of addressing these problems independently or discussing them as general life challenges, he began to hint that Patricia could help solve them. First, it was small requests. Could she cover dinner since he was short on cash? Could she loan him money for car repairs? Could he stay at her place for a few weeks while he sorted out his housing situation? Each request came with elaborate explanations about temporary setbacks, upcoming opportunities, and promises of repayment. Patricia, who had always been generous and caring, was happy to help someone she cared about get through a difficult period. However, the requests escalated, the explanations became more elaborate, and the promises of independence and repayment never materialized. More telling was Ryan's behavior around Patricia's resources and lifestyle. He became increasingly comfortable suggesting expensive restaurants, planning costly activities, and assuming that Patricia would cover the expenses. He started talking about trips they could take together, always to destinations that were clearly beyond his budget. He began making himself at home in her house, using her car, eating her food, and treating her resources as if they were shared property. Even though he contributed nothing to the household, most significantly, Ryan's interest in Patricia as a person began to wane as his comfort with her resources increased. He stopped asking about her thoughts, her feelings, or her experiences unless they related to her work or finances. He became less attentive, less romantic, and less engaged in activities that didn't provide him with some form of material benefit. This pattern of resource-focused interest often includes several specific warning signs. The man might ask detailed questions about your financial situation, your property, your investments, or your income very early in the relationship. While it's normal for couples to eventually discuss financial matters, someone who's genuinely interested in you as a person will focus on getting to know your personality, values, and character first. He might consistently suggest activities or make plans that assume you'll pay, without discussing finances or offering to contribute. He might make comments about your lifestyle, your home, your possessions, or your financial security that focus more on the benefits these things could provide him rather than appreciation for the work you've done to achieve them. Another common manifestation is when he begins to hint about or directly request financial help, loans, or support for his various projects, emergencies, or life goals. These requests often come with emotional manipulation, playing on your caring nature and desire to support someone you care about. He might frame his requests as temporary help, investment opportunities, or ways for you to be part of his dreams and aspirations. The requests for support often extend beyond just financial assistance. He might expect you to use your professional connections to help advance his career, leverage your social network to benefit his interests, or provide practical support like housing, meals, transportation, or other resources that make his life easier and less expensive. One of the most telling aspects of this red flag is how he responds when resources become less available or when you set boundaries around financial or material support. If his interest in you diminishes when you can't or won't provide financial assistance, if he becomes angry or manipulative when you set financial boundaries, or if he starts looking for other sources of support when you're not available to provide it, these are clear indicators that his interest was never really about you as a person. This red flag is particularly harmful to older women because it exploits several vulnerabilities that are common in this demographic. Many mature women have experienced relationships where they provided significant emotional labor, financial support, or practical assistance without receiving equal consideration in return. They might be looking for partners who appreciate their capabilities and achievements, making them vulnerable to men who seem to value these qualities but are actually interested in exploiting them. Additionally, older women might feel pressure to prove their value in relationships by providing material support or resources. especially if they're dealing with insecurities about aging or competing with younger women. This can make them more susceptible to men who seem to appreciate their stability and resources but are actually taking advantage of their generosity and desire to be valued. The emotional impact of being valued, primarily for your resources rather than your personality, can be devastating. It reduces you to a provider rather than a partner, suggesting that your worth is tied to what you can give rather than who you are. It can leave you feeling used, unappreciated, and questioning whether anyone could love you for yourself rather than what you can provide. A man who is genuinely serious about an older woman will appreciate her accomplishments and resources as reflections of her character, intelligence, and capabilities, not as opportunities for his own benefit. He'll be interested in her thoughts about her work, her feelings about her achievements, and her experiences building her life, not just the material benefits these accomplishments provide. He'll contribute to the relationship in his own ways, whether financially, practically, or emotionally, rather than consistently taking from her resources. He'll respect her financial boundaries, appreciate her generosity without exploiting it, and show interest in supporting her goals and dreams rather than just benefiting from her success. If you're experiencing this red flag, pay attention to the balance in your relationship. Are you consistently the one providing financial support, resources, or practical assistance? Does his interest and attention seem to correlate with what you can provide for him? Does he show genuine interest in your personality, thoughts, and feelings? Or does he primarily focus on your resources and what they can do for him? Remember that you deserve someone who values you for who you are, not what you can provide. Your accomplishments and resources should be appreciated as part of what makes you an interesting and capable person, not exploited as a source of support for someone else's life. If he's more interested in your wallet than your personality, he's not serious about you as a person, and he's definitely not the right partner for you. Red flag number 5. He dismisses your life experience and wisdom. Fifth major red flag that indicates a man is not serious about his relationship with an older woman is when he consistently dismisses, minimizes, or shows disrespect for your life experience and the wisdom you've gained through years of living, learning, and growing. This is particularly damaging because one of the most valuable aspects of relationships with older women should be the depth of experience, insight, and wisdom they bring to the partnership. When someone genuinely values and respects you as an older woman, they recognize that your years of life experience are not just numbers on a calendar, but represent decades of learning, growth, challenges overcome, and wisdom gained. They understand that you've navigated various life stages, faced different types of obstacles, developed coping strategies, and accumulated insights that can only come through lived experience. However, when a man is not serious about you or doesn't truly respect you as an equal partner, he will often dismiss or diminish the value of your experience and wisdom. This dismissal can take many forms, from subtle undermining to outright condescension. But the underlying message is always the same. Your experience doesn't matter, your insights aren't valuable, and your perspective isn't worth considering seriously. This red flag often manifests in how he responds to your advice, opinions, or insights about various situations. When you share your perspective on relationships, career decisions, family dynamics, financial planning, or any other area where your experience might be relevant and valuable, he might respond with dismissiveness, condescension, or outright rejection of your viewpoint. He might make comments like, "Things are different now. You don't understand how it works these days," or "Your way might have worked back then." But these responses not only dismiss your specific advice, but also suggest that your experience is outdated, irrelevant, or somehow less valid than his own limited perspective. Consider the experience of Dorothy, a 62-year-old former business executive who had successfully managed teams, navigated corporate politics, and built an impressive career over 3 decades. When she began dating Michael, who was 41 and struggling in his own career, she initially felt hopeful that her experience might be valuable to someone who seemed to be facing challenges she had successfully overcome. However, Michael's response to Dorothy's insights and advice revealed a troubling pattern of disrespect for her experience. When he complained about difficulties with his boss and Dorothy offered perspective based on her years of management experience, Michael would dismiss her suggestions as old school or not how things work anymore. When he struggled with career decisions and Dorothy shared insights from her own professional journey, he would interrupt her or change the subject, clearly uninterested in her perspective. Most telling was Michael's response when Dorothy tried to share wisdom about relationships based on her previous marriage, her divorce, and her years of self-reflection and growth. Instead of appreciating the insights she had gained through her experiences, Michael would become uncomfortable, defensive, or dismissive. He seemed to view her past relationships as baggage, rather than as sources of wisdom and self-knowledge. This dismissal of experience often extends to various areas of life where older women typically have accumulated significant wisdom and insight. He might dismiss your parenting experience if you've raised children, your relationship insights if you've been married before, your career wisdom if you've had a successful professional life, or your financial knowledge if you've managed to build security and stability over time. The dismissal can also manifest in more subtle ways that might be harder to recognize initially. He might listen politely to your advice or insights, but never actually consider or implement any of your suggestions. He might ask for your opinion, but then argue with or undermine everything you say. He might seek advice from younger, less experienced people while ignoring identical advice from you. Another common manifestation is when he treats your life experiences as entertainment rather than as sources of wisdom and insight. He might enjoy hearing your stories about past adventures, relationships, or achievements, but only as amusing anecdotes rather than as experiences that have shaped your character and perspective. He doesn't connect your past experiences to your current wisdom and capabilities. This red flag is often accompanied by a general attitude that newer is better, younger perspectives are more valid, and traditional wisdom is outdated or irrelevant. He might consistently favor the opinions of younger friends, colleagues, or even strangers over your insights, regardless of their actual experience or expertise in the area being discussed. The dismissal of your wisdom and experience is particularly damaging because it attacks one of the core advantages and values that you bring to the relationship. As an older woman, your experience represents decades of learning, growth, and accumulated wisdom that should be valued and appreciated by a genuine partner. When someone dismisses this experience, they're essentially dismissing a fundamental part of who you are and what makes you valuable as a person and partner. This behavior also reveals underlying ageist attitudes and assumptions. The man might consciously or unconsciously believe that older perspectives are less valuable, that experience becomes outdated rather than refined over time, or that youth somehow equals wisdom and insight. These attitudes are not only disrespectful, but also demonstrate a fundamental misunderstanding of how wisdom and insight actually develop through life experience. Moreover, this dismissal often indicates that he doesn't view you as an equal partner whose opinions and insights matter in the relationship. In healthy relationships, partners value each other's perspectives, learn from each other's experiences, and appreciate the different types of wisdom and insight that each person brings to the partnership. When one person consistently dismisses the other's experience and wisdom, it creates an unequal dynamic where one perspective is valued over the other. The pattern might also extend to how he treats your friends, family members, or peers who are in your age group. Does he show respect for your social circle and the wisdom of people in your generation, or does he seem to view them as outdated, irrelevant, or somehow less valid than younger perspectives? His attitude toward your peers often reflects his attitude toward you and your generation more broadly. Another aspect of this red flag is how he responds to your attempts to share your life lessons or the wisdom you've gained through various experiences. A man who genuinely values you will be interested in learning from your experiences, understanding how you've grown and changed over time, and incorporating your insights into his own understanding of life and relationships. However, a man who dismisses your wisdom will show little interest in your life lessons, might become bored or uncomfortable when you try to share meaningful insights, and will rarely apply any of your wisdom to his own life or decision-making. He sees your experiences as ancient history rather than as valuable sources of current wisdom and insight. This dismissal can be particularly painful for older women who have worked hard to learn from their experiences, grow from their mistakes, and develop wisdom over time. Many mature women see their accumulated wisdom as one of their greatest assets and most valuable contributions to relationships. When this wisdom is dismissed or devalued, it can be deeply hurtful and damaging to self-esteem. A man who is genuinely serious about an older woman will value and appreciate her experience and wisdom as fundamental parts of what makes her attractive and desirable as a partner. He'll seek her advice, consider her perspectives, and appreciate the insights she's gained through her life experiences. He'll recognize that her wisdom is not outdated but refined, not irrelevant but deeply valuable. He'll be curious about her experiences, interested in learning from her insights, and grateful for the wisdom she brings to the relationship. He'll understand that her experience represents a valuable resource that can benefit both of them, and he'll treat her wisdom with the respect and appreciation it deserves. If you're experiencing this red flag, pay attention to how your partner responds to your advice, insights, and perspectives. Does he value your wisdom, or does he dismiss it as outdated or irrelevant? Does he seek your counsel on important decisions, or does he turn to less experienced sources of advice? Does he appreciate the insights you've gained through your experiences, or does he treat your past as irrelevant to your current relationship? Remember that your experience and wisdom are valuable assets that deserve appreciation and respect from any serious partner. You've earned your insights through years of living, learning, and growing, and those insights represent one of the most important things you bring to any relationship. If he doesn't value your wisdom, he doesn't truly value you as a person, and he's definitely not serious about building a meaningful partnership with you. Red flag number 6, he shows signs of being ashamed of the age difference. The 6th significant red flag that reveals a man's lack of genuine commitment to an older woman is when he demonstrates shame, embarrassment, or discomfort about the age difference between you. This goes beyond normal initial adjustment periods or minor social awkwardness that might naturally occur in any age gap relationship. Instead, this red flag involves a persistent, ongoing pattern of behavior that suggests he views the age difference as something negative, embarrassing, or socially problematic, rather than simply an aspect of your unique relationship dynamic. When someone is truly comfortable with and committed to their relationship with an older woman, they develop a healthy attitude about the age difference over time. They might initially feel some natural curiosity or mild concern about how others will react, but they work through these feelings and reach a place of confidence and pride in their choice of partner. They recognize that while the age difference might make their relationship somewhat unusual, it doesn't make it wrong, shameful, or something to hide. However, when a man is not truly serious about the relationship or lacks the maturity and confidence to handle social reactions to the age difference, his shame and embarrassment become apparent through various behaviors and attitudes. These manifestations of shame create an atmosphere of secrecy, discomfort, and illegitimacy around the relationship that can be extremely damaging to both partners, but particularly to the older woman who may already be dealing with societal messages about aging and desirability. This shame often manifests in social situations where the age difference might be apparent to others. He becomes visibly uncomfortable when you encounter people who know him, especially peers, family members, or colleagues. He might become tense, nervous, or withdrawn in these situations, as if he's waiting for judgment or criticism about your relationship. This discomfort is often palpable and creates an awkward atmosphere that affects both of you. The shame might also appear in how he introduces you or explains your relationship to others. Instead of introducing you proudly as his girlfriend or partner, he might be vague about your relationship status, introduce you in ways that downplay your connection, or avoid introductions altogether when possible. He might refer to you as a friend, avoid using relationship terms, or provide unnecessary explanations about how you met or why you're together, as if he feels compelled to justify the relationship to others. Consider Rebecca's experience with Thomas, a 39-year-old she met at a professional conference. Rebecca was 54 and had been impressed by Thomas's intelligence, ambition, and apparent maturity. Their initial connection was strong, and she felt optimistic about the potential for a meaningful relationship. However, as their relationship progressed, Thomas's discomfort with their age difference became increasingly apparent. The first signs appeared at social gatherings. When they attended events together, Thomas would become noticeably tense and self-conscious. He seemed hyper-aware of how others were looking at them and would often position himself in ways that made their togetherness less obvious. At a work party, instead of staying by Rebecca's side as couples typically do, he mingled separately and only occasionally checked in with her, treating her more like an acquaintance than a romantic partner. More telling was Thomas's response to questions about their relationship. When colleagues or friends asked about Rebecca, Thomas would provide awkward, over-detailed explanations about how they met professionally, emphasizing their work connection rather than their romantic relationship. He seemed compelled to justify their relationship in ways that had nothing to do with attraction, compatibility, or genuine connection. The shame became most apparent in Thomas's interactions with his family. Despite dating for several months, he consistently found excuses for why Rebecca couldn't attend family gatherings or meet his relatives. When she finally did meet his mother, Thomas was visibly anxious throughout the encounter and seemed relieved when it was over. Later, Rebecca learned that he had spent significant time beforehand explaining to his mother why he was dating someone older, as if he needed to defend his choice rather than simply share his happiness. This shame about the age difference often extends to online and social media presence as well. He might be reluctant to post pictures of you together, tag you in posts, or acknowledge your relationship publicly on social platforms. If he does post about you, it might be in ways that don't clearly indicate the romantic nature of your relationship or that downplay the significance of your connection. The shame can also manifest in how he talks about relationships more generally. He might make comments about age-appropriate dating, express negative opinions about other age gap relationships, or seem uncomfortable when age gap relationships are discussed in media or among friends. These comments reveal his internal conflict and discomfort with your own age difference. Another common manifestation is when he seems overly concerned about what others think about your relationship. He might frequently ask you if you've noticed people looking at you, express worry about what his friends or family think, or seem preoccupied with managing others' perceptions of your relationship. This excessive concern about external judgment suggests that he's not fully confident in or committed to your relationship. The shame might also appear in more subtle ways, such as his body language and behavior in public. He might maintain more physical distance in public than in private, avoid typical couple behaviors like holding hands or showing affection, or seem uncomfortable with public displays of connection that would clearly identify you as a romantic couple. This pattern is particularly damaging because it reinforces negative societal messages about relationships between older women and younger men. Society already sends plenty of messages suggesting that such relationships are inappropriate, unusual, or somehow problematic. When the man in the relationship demonstrates shame about the age difference, he validates these harmful messages and makes it even more difficult for the older woman to feel confident and secure in the relationship. The shame can also be internalized by the older woman, leading to feelings of embarrassment, insecurity, or self-doubt about the relationship. If her partner is ashamed of the age difference, she might begin to question whether the relationship is appropriate or whether she should be pursuing someone closer to her own age. This can be particularly damaging for women who are already dealing with ageist messages from society about their desirability and worth. Moreover, this shame suggests that he's not fully committed to the relationship or confident in his choice of partner. Someone who is genuinely serious about building a future with an older woman will work through any initial discomfort about the age difference and reach a place of confidence and pride in their relationship. They'll defend their relationship when necessary, present their partner with pride and affection, and focus on the positive aspects of their connection rather than worrying about external judgment. The shame also indicates a lack of maturity and emotional development that can affect many other aspects of the relationship. Someone who is overly concerned about what others think, who can't handle social judgment about their personal choices, or who feels compelled to justify their relationship to others may not have the emotional maturity necessary for a serious, committed partnership. A man who is genuinely serious about an older woman will move past any initial concerns about the age difference and develop genuine pride in his relationship. He'll introduce you with confidence, defend your relationship when necessary, and focus on your compatibility and connection rather than external perceptions. He'll recognize that while your relationship might be unusual, it's also valuable, meaningful, and worth celebrating. He'll work through any social discomfort and reach a place where he's proud to be seen with you, excited to introduce you to important people in his life, and confident in his choice of partner. He'll understand that every relationship faces some form of social judgment or curiosity, and he'll be willing to handle those challenges for the sake of being with someone he truly cares about. If you're experiencing this red flag, pay attention to how your partner handles social situations involving your relationship. Does he seem proud to be with you, or does he appear embarrassed or uncomfortable? Does he introduce you confidently, or does he seem awkward about explaining your relationship? Does he defend your relationship when necessary, or does he seem to agree with criticism or judgment from others? Remember that you deserve someone who is proud to be with you regardless of your age or any age difference between you. You deserve someone who sees your relationship as something to celebrate rather than something to hide or justify. If he's ashamed of the age difference, he's not ready for a serious relationship with an older woman, and he's definitely not the right partner for you. Red flag number 7. He pressures you to change yourself to fit his preferences. The 7th and final major red flag that indicates a man is not serious about his relationship with an older woman is when he consistently pressures you to change fundamental aspects of yourself, your appearance, your lifestyle, or your personality to better fit his preferences or expectations. This is perhaps one of the most insidious red flags because it attacks your sense of self and suggests that who you naturally are is not good enough for him. When someone genuinely loves and values you, they appreciate you for who you authentically are. While healthy relationships certainly involve some degree of growth, compromise, and mutual influence, there's a crucial difference between natural relationship evolution and pressure to fundamentally change yourself to meet someone else's standards or preferences. This red flag becomes particularly complex in relationships involving older women because it often exploits insecurities about aging, changing bodies, evolving styles, and societal expectations about how women should look and behave at different life stages. A manipulative or uncommitted man might deliberately target these insecurities as a way to maintain control in the relationship or to mold you into someone who better fits his ideal rather than appreciating the unique person you already are. The pressure to change can manifest in numerous ways, ranging from subtle suggestions and hints to direct demands and ultimatums. It might focus on your physical appearance, your clothing choices, your social activities, your career decisions, your relationships with family and friends, or even fundamental aspects of your personality and values. When it comes to physical appearance, this pressure often reveals itself through comments about your hair, your makeup, your clothing style, your weight, or other aspects of your physical presentation. He might suggest that you would look better with a different hair color or style, that you should wear more makeup or different types of clothing, or that you should lose weight or change your fitness routine. These suggestions are often framed as being helpful or caring, but they reveal a fundamental dissatisfaction with your natural appearance. Consider the experience of Helen, a 58-year-old artist who had always been comfortable with her natural silver hair, her artistic style of dressing, and her preference for minimal makeup. When she began dating Connor, who was 43, she initially appreciated his attention to style and appearance. However, Connor's comments about her appearance gradually became more frequent and more pointed. First, it was subtle suggestions. Connor mentioned how much he loved women with colored hair, and how he thought Helen might look younger if she colored her silver locks. He complimented other women's makeup and asked Helen if she had ever considered wearing more cosmetics. He began buying her clothing that was very different from her usual artistic style, suggesting that she might look more put together in more conventional outfits. When Helen didn't immediately embrace these changes, Connor's suggestions became more direct and insistent. He began making comments about how she could look 10 years younger if she just made some simple changes. He started comparing her unfavorably to other women, pointing out how much better other women looked who had colored hair, wore more makeup, or dressed in more mainstream styles. The pressure extended beyond just appearance to other aspects of Helen's life and personality. Connor criticized her artistic friends as flaky and suggested she should spend time with more successful people. He questioned her career choices and suggested she should focus on more commercial art that would bring in more income. He even criticized her hobbies and interests, suggesting that she should take up activities that were more appealing to him. This type of pressure is particularly damaging because it sends the message that you are not acceptable as you are, that your natural self is somehow insufficient or inadequate. It suggests that his love and commitment are conditional on your willingness to change yourself, to meet his standards rather than based on genuine appreciation for who you authentically are. The pressure to change often escalates over time as he becomes more comfortable in the relationship and more confident that you won't leave. What might start as gentle suggestions or helpful hints can evolve into criticism, demands, or even ultimatums. He might begin to withhold affection, attention, or approval when you don't conform to his preferences, using these emotional rewards and punishments to try to shape your behavior. This red flag is often accompanied by comparisons to other women, particularly younger women. He might point out how other women dress, look, or behave, suggesting that you should emulate these examples. These comparisons are particularly cruel because they play on insecurities that many older women already face about competing with younger women or maintaining relevance and attractiveness in an ageist society. The pressure might also extend to your social connections and relationships. He might criticize your friends, suggest that you should distance yourself from certain family members, or pressure you to change your social activities to better align with his preferences. This type of pressure is especially concerning because it can lead to isolation and dependency, making it more difficult for you to maintain the support systems and relationships that are crucial for your well-being and independence. Another common manifestation is pressure to change your lifestyle, habits, or routines to better accommodate his preferences or needs. He might pressure you to change your living situation, your work schedule, your hobbies, your fitness routine, or other aspects of your daily life to better fit what he wants from the relationship. While some compromise and adjustment are normal in relationships, this type of pressure goes beyond healthy compromise to demand fundamental changes in how you live your life. The pressure to change can also focus on your personality traits, values, or fundamental characteristics. He might suggest that you're too independent, too opinionated, too emotional, too reserved, or too anything that doesn't align with his preferences. He might pressure you to be more or less social, more or less career-focused, or more or less family-oriented, depending on what he thinks would make you a better partner for him. This type of pressure is particularly insidious because it attacks core aspects of who you are as a person. Your personality, values, and fundamental characteristics have been developed over decades of life experience and represent authentic parts of your identity. When someone pressures you to change these core aspects of yourself, they're essentially saying that who you really are is not good enough for them. The emotional impact of constant pressure to change can be devastating. It can lead to loss of self-confidence, confusion about your identity, and a gradual erosion of your sense of self-worth. You might begin to question your own judgment, your appearance, your choices, and your value as a person. This is exactly the type of psychological manipulation that can make you more dependent on his approval and more likely to accept other problematic behaviors. Moreover, this pressure often creates a moving target situation where no amount of change is ever enough. Even if you make some of the changes he's requesting, he's likely to find new things that need to be different or adjusted. This creates a cycle where you're constantly trying to meet his standards while never feeling like you're good enough. As you are, a man who is genuinely serious about an older woman will appreciate her for who she authentically is, including her natural appearance, her established lifestyle, her personality traits, and her values. He'll recognize that her age and experience have contributed to making her the person she is today, and he'll value that person rather than trying to change her into someone else. He'll understand that while relationships involve some natural evolution and mutual influence, fundamental acceptance of your partner is crucial for a healthy, lasting relationship. He'll focus on building a relationship with the real you rather than trying to create a relationship with some idealized version of who he thinks you should be. This doesn't mean that he can't have preferences or that couples can't influence each other positively. Healthy relationships do involve some degree of growth and positive change. The key difference is that healthy influence is mutual, respectful, and focused on helping each other become better versions of yourselves rather than completely different people. If you're experiencing this red flag, pay attention to the frequency and intensity of suggestions or criticisms about who you are and how you present yourself. Does he appreciate your natural self, or does he consistently suggest that you need to change? Do his comments make you feel more confident and loved, or do they make you feel inadequate and insecure? Remember that you deserve someone who loves and appreciates you for who you authentically are right now. You deserve someone who sees your natural beauty, values your established lifestyle, and respects your personality and values. You've spent decades becoming the person you are today, and that person deserves to be celebrated and cherished rather than criticized and changed. If he's constantly pressuring you to change fundamental aspects of yourself, he's not serious about building a relationship with the real you. He's interested in creating a fantasy partner rather than loving and appreciating the amazing woman you already are. That's not love, and it's definitely not the foundation for a serious, lasting relationship. As we reach the end of our comprehensive exploration of these 7 critical red flags, I want you to take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed today. We've covered a lot of ground, from the secretive behavior that keeps you hidden from his real life, to the focus on physical intimacy that reduces you to an object rather than a partner, to the dismissal of your wisdom and experience that attacks the very core of what makes you valuable as an older woman. Each of these red flags represents a serious warning sign that the man in your life may not be genuinely committed to building a meaningful, respectful, and lasting relationship with you. More importantly, each of these behaviors suggests that he doesn't truly value you for who you are, doesn't respect your worth as a person, and doesn't appreciate the unique qualities, experience, and wisdom that you bring to the relationship as a mature woman. I want to emphasize that recognizing these red flags is not about becoming cynical, closing your heart to love, or giving up on the possibility of finding genuine companionship and romance. Instead, it's about becoming empowered, informed, and confident in your ability to distinguish between men who are genuinely interested in you and those who see you as a means to an end. Whether that end is financial support, sexual gratification, ego validation, or simply someone to pass time with until something they consider better comes along. You deserve so much more than any of these scenarios. You deserve someone who is proud to be with you, who values your intelligence and wisdom, who appreciates your life experience, who respects your independence and achievements, and who wants to build a future that includes you as an equal partner. You deserve someone who sees your age not as a limitation or an embarrassment, but as a testament to your resilience, your growth, and your accumulated wisdom. The reality is that there are men out there who genuinely appreciate and are attracted to older women for all the right reasons. These men understand that maturity brings confidence, that experience brings wisdom, and that a woman who has lived, learned, and grown through various life stages has incredible value as a partner. They're not intimidated by your success, they're not embarrassed by your age, and they're not interested in changing you into someone else. These genuinely interested men will want to be part of your life openly and proudly. They'll value your advice and wisdom, they'll include you in their future plans, they'll appreciate you for who you are rather than what you can provide, and they'll see your relationship as something worth celebrating rather than something to hide or justify. But in order to find these genuine partners, you need to be able to identify and avoid the ones who are not serious about you. This requires courage, self-respect, and a commitment to your own well-being that sometimes means walking away from relationships that feel good in the moment but are ultimately harmful to your long-term happiness and self-worth. I want to address something that many older women struggle with in the dating world. Society sends so many negative messages about aging, about older women's desirability, and about the supposed difficulty of finding love later in life. These messages can create a scarcity mindset that makes you feel like you should be grateful for any attention, even when that attention comes with red flags, disrespect, or manipulation. But I want you to reject that scarcity mindset completely. You are not lucky to receive attention that comes with disrespect. You are not fortunate to be in a relationship where you're hidden, used, or pressured to change. You are not blessed to be with someone who dismisses your wisdom, exploits your resources, or treats you as a temporary convenience. Instead, you should approach dating and relationships from a position of abundance and self-worth. You have so much to offer a genuine partner. Your life experience has given you wisdom that can't be bought or taught. Your independence and achievements demonstrate your capability and strength. Your maturity brings emotional stability and depth that many younger women haven't yet developed. Your confidence and self-knowledge make you an incredible partner for someone who's mature enough to appreciate these qualities. The key is to hold out for someone who recognizes and values these qualities rather than settling for someone who sees them as irrelevant, threatening, or exploitable. This doesn't mean you should have unrealistic expectations or demand perfection from potential partners. Every person and every relationship has flaws and challenges, but there's a significant difference between normal human imperfections and the deliberate patterns of disrespect, manipulation, and exploitation that we've discussed today. If you're currently in a relationship and you've recognized multiple red flags from our discussion today, I encourage you to have honest conversations with yourself and potentially with trusted friends or family members about what you're experiencing. Sometimes it's difficult to see patterns clearly when we're emotionally invested in a relationship, and outside perspectives can be incredibly valuable. Consider whether the behaviors you're experiencing are isolated incidents or consistent patterns. Think about whether your partner shows genuine willingness to change and grow when you express concerns, or whether he becomes defensive, dismissive, or manipulative when confronted with his behavior. Evaluate whether the relationship is enhancing your life and self-worth or diminishing them. Most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, if you find yourself making excuses for his behavior, if you're constantly questioning your own worth or reasonableness, if you're walking on eggshells or compromising your values to maintain the relationship, these are signs that something is not right, regardless of what he says or how he justifies his actions. Remember that it's never too late to prioritize your own well-being and happiness. Whether you're 40, 50, 60, 70, or beyond, you deserve to be in relationships that enhance your life rather than diminish it. You deserve to be with someone who celebrates you rather than tolerates you, who builds you up rather than tears you down, and who sees being with you as a privilege rather than a favor. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to end a relationship because of these red flags, know that this decision takes courage and strength, but it also opens up space in your life for something better. It allows you to redirect your energy toward people and activities that truly value and appreciate you. It gives you the opportunity to find someone who will love and respect you for exactly who you are. For those of you who are single and dating, use this information as a screening tool to help you identify genuine partners early in the dating process. Don't ignore red flags hoping that they'll resolve themselves over time. Pay attention to patterns and trust your observations. Be willing to walk away from relationships that don't meet your standards, even if that means spending more time alone. Being alone is infinitely better than being in a relationship where you're not valued, respected, or genuinely loved. Solitude allows you to maintain your self-worth, pursue your interests, and remain open to genuinely good opportunities when they arise. Don't let loneliness or social pressure push you into accepting relationships that are beneath what you deserve. I also want to encourage you to surround yourself with people who value and appreciate you for who you are. Build friendships with people who respect your wisdom, celebrate your achievements, and support your growth. Maintain relationships with family members who love you unconditionally. Engage in activities and communities where your experience and maturity are valued assets rather than limitations. These positive relationships and activities will reinforce your sense of self-worth and make it easier to recognize when romantic relationships are not meeting appropriate standards. They'll provide the emotional support and validation that will make you less vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation from men who are not serious about building genuine partnerships with you. Finally, I want to emphasize that recognizing and avoiding these red flags is an act of self-love and self-respect. It's a way of honoring the journey you've taken to become who you are today and protecting the wisdom, strength, and beauty you've developed over the years. You've worked too hard and come too far to settle for relationships that don't recognize and celebrate your value. Your age is not a liability in relationships. It's an asset. Your experience is not baggage. It's wisdom. Your independence is not a threat. It's strength. Your high standards are not unreasonable. They're appropriate. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. And don't let anyone treat you as if you should be grateful for less than you deserve. As we wrap up today's discussion, I want to leave you with this powerful reminder: you are worthy of genuine love, respect, and appreciation exactly as you are right now. Your age, your experience, your wisdom, and your unique qualities make you an incredible partner for the right person. Don't settle for someone who can't see and appreciate these qualities. If this video has helped you recognize important patterns in your own dating life or relationships, please take a moment to hit that like button. Your engagement helps us reach more women who need this information and creates a community of empowered, informed women supporting each other. I encourage you to share this video with any friends or family members who might benefit from this information. Sometimes the women in our lives need to hear these insights from an outside source, and sharing this content could make a real difference in someone's relationship decisions and overall happiness. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest content on dating, relationships, self-empowerment, and living your best life at any age. We're constantly creating new content designed to help you navigate the complexities of modern dating and relationships with confidence and wisdom. And if this content has truly made a difference in your life, if it's helped you avoid a problematic relationship or given you the courage to demand better for yourself, please consider supporting our channel with a super thanks. Your support allows us to continue creating in-depth, valuable content that addresses the real challenges that mature women face in today's dating world. In the comments section below, I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Have you encountered any of these red flags in your own dating life? What other warning signs would you add to this list? How have you learned to protect yourself while remaining open to genuine love and connection? Your experiences and insights could help other women who are watching this video and facing similar challenges. Remember, knowledge is power, and the power to recognize these red flags is the power to protect yourself while remaining open to the genuine love and respect you deserve. You've got this, and you're worth fighting for. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and never settle for less than you deserve. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring ways to empower yourself in love, life, and everything in between. Take care of yourselves, beautiful women, and remember that your best days are ahead of you, not behind you.